This is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave, the founder of the highest paid part-time job in the world. But right now, we're not going to talk about options. I want to talk about something that's going to deal with more of like black psychology, more of something that's kind of like down the dark persuasion lane. And so the question we want to ask is that as a consumer in the marketplace, right, do you value black expertise? And so I'm going to tell you a really, really quick story to kind of understand and frame what I'm trying to talk about. So when I was in Atlanta, I used to work with this person and we would do consulting, right? And so we had certain consulting packages that we had set up. What's going on, Kimberly? And so, we had package A, package B, package C. It was kind of like a tiered package. So we had a scenario where a client had bought one of our lower tier packages. And so it included a certain amount of responsibilities or details included in that package. And then while we were performing that package, the person I was working with, they went back to the client and they performed some additional duties. And so after they had done that, I went and asked them, I said, well, why did you perform those duties when they weren't included in the package, right? Because there's one thing about providing excellent customer service, but there's another thing about giving away free work. And she was like, well, they needed that to get done for us to be able to finish up this particular job. And I said, well, the problem and the challenge that I'm having with that is that they bought what they felt like was valuable to them from us. So if that's all they bought, if that is what they bought, we can exceed on what they bought, but we should not be giving them work for free. Now, we were a black firm doing business with other black people. The challenge and the question we want to ask ourselves as black consumers is that, do we really value black expertise? And so this is because this is not the entertaining hot button topic, we don't talk about these kind of things in a lot of black spaces. We go over pretty much the same ring around the rosy set of topics over and over and over and over and over again. And we never kind of really start dealing with some of the really issues that provide the leverage to try to get us over the hill to the next level. So if we desire to do business, right, with other black people, we got to start asking ourselves, do we value their expertise? Because what we see is that as a black group, many of us only value expertise if the black person is a celebrity. And we value their celebrity status, so whether they're an entertainer or they're a basketball player, which is also an entertainer. So if they're a celebrity athlete or a celebrity entertainer, we value that expertise. So we figure out a way to pay those particular people for their expertise and for their level of excellence in what they do. However, outside of that, are we still willing to pay for that level of expertise? So, for example, there's a brother I know that's like a physicist, right? I think his name is Neil something. And he does a lot of speaking engagements. So he goes all over the country and he does speaking engagements where he came to I have a member of my family that lives in the DC, Metro DC area. And he came to that area, but where he was speaking was a predominantly white area and he was charging a lot of money to come hear him speak. And I think that the reason why he's doing that is because if he was to present himself in front of a black audience, would they value his expertise enough to pay what he desires to hear him talk about physics and things of that nature? When you're looking at a lot of other ethnic groups, because they may want their child to have that level of exposure, they're willing to pay that money to hear this man speak about physics and how the future is going to look in dealing with science and things of that nature to their child, so their child can get that level of exposure, so they're willing to pay his fee. One of the things that I've observed with the black consumers on a general level, not on a specific person by person level, is we have a resistance, right, to paying for black expertise. All right. And the question you want to ask yourself is that when you went to college, because many black people now, almost every black person I know either has a college degree or has taken some kind of college courses, right? There are a lot that have not, but a lot of black people have. When you went to that university, right, which primarily for most black people was a primarily white institution, did you have that same resistance to paying those people for their expertise? So if you're going to a college, you're talking about hundreds of dollars per credit hour. Then you're talking about buying a book, which costs a lot of times over in excess of $100 that you're usually going to keep for a semester. Then you're going to put on the shelf. You're going to throw it away. Next semester, you got to do it all over again. You're doing all of this because they've programmed you to purchase their expertise, because you believe that by purchasing that expertise and that by going through their particular requirements, at the end of the day, you can get what you desire. And even now in 2021, many of us have gone through that routine. We know that that's not a way to get what we desire, but we still don't tell the next generation to not pay Anglo-Americans these high ticket amounts for their expertise. We just continue to keep this ball rolling. But I would ask you, any black person that was selling you their expertise, right? And I don't just mean that they're telling you they're expert at something. They have a track record of production or results in this particular area. Were you willing to pay them the same amount of money that you paid Anglo-Americans for their expertise? And so that's one of the biggest challenges, that as a black person that seeks to sell your expertise in an area, it sounds good to create the business around it. But one of the challenges that I've seen with a lot of different people is to deal with a black consumer base. What you now have to do is lower your prices, right? To appeal to that base, because they have been programmed to not pay for that particular expertise. So I know a brother on social media who teaches a mathematics course, right? His background is math. He teaches math on a college level. So he's an expert in this particular area. Can he charge what a cohort of his who may be Anglo-Saxon or maybe Indian charge to teach mathematics to black people, because he's shown that he's such an expert in that particular space that he's able to get top dollar out of that particular group? And so these are the questions that we want to ask ourselves. How come when we're dealing with black experts, right, we're not willing to pay them that top dollar? And so where did the programming come in to where we diminish black expertise, but we're willing to pay Anglo-Saxon expertise any amount of money that they ask for? So that's in the medical space, that's in the education space, that's in the technical space. Whatever they say the bill is, we figure out how to pay it, because they've already programmed us that their expertise has a value to it, right? And they've attached a dollar amount to that value and then told us, well, just go find our money. Let me tell you something about me. There was a time where I was trying to get financing for my business, because I realized that a lot of people go to college because they can finance it. So if I can get my offer financed, right, maybe I can get more black people to spend money with me because they won't be on the hook for it up front. But what I realized about the black consumer is when it comes to doing business with black people, they really only desire to pay up front for stuff with cash that they have in their pocket. They don't desire to finance what they get from that black person. So where they may buy a course, or they may buy some education material, or they may buy a program from somebody that's non-black, or they may buy a car, or they may buy a house, or they may buy medical care from somebody that's non-black, they're more willing to finance that, right? So they'll go on the hook for it financially. But a lot of times when we're dealing with the black provider, what we attitude is that if I don't have the money in cash, I don't want to pay for it. You see what I'm saying? So there's something in our psychology that has programmed us that that expertise is not worth, right, such a level of compensation that I'm willing to go on the hook for it financially and just pay it off over time, right? But you finance college, you finance a car, right? 9 times out of 10, even if you go to a buy here, pay here, you're still making payments. You're financing a house. So, you're not paying the house off, which essentially the person that built your house 9 times out of 10 is going to be a white builder. And in the financial institution that you're paying off, you're also paying that off. So what's interesting is that when we're doing business with this other sector of the world, right, who are people that are not us, we're willing to jump through a lot of hoops to make sure we got their money. When we're dealing with a black provider, if I can't pay for it out of my pocket, I don't want it. So once it gets over a certain dollar amount, well, that's too high for me. Why? Because I can't pay for it all out of my pocket, right? Or I don't want to pay top dollar for that expertise. So then once they price it at a certain price point, what I want now, decide that that's too expensive for me. And then I start going into another direction. But if it's an entertainer, if it's a celebrity, it's a different story. So people will go or do without to go see the celebrity perform, or they'll do without to go to a particular sporting event, or they'll do without to go buy this consumer good. But when it comes to getting expertise from a black person that can improve your life, all of a sudden now that black provider is forced to try to figure out how they can create a pricing structure to where black people don't get what we call sticker shock, where the price point is so high, we get scared off. But that's the same consumer that goes to college and loans $40,000. Or it's the same consumer that goes to a car lot and takes a $20,000 loan to buy a car. Or it's the same consumer that says, I want to get a medical procedure that's elective, and what I'll do is I'll finance it. Like a lot of plastic surgery is financed now. People don't really pay it out of pocket. It's elective. So in these particular areas, I'm willing to go into debt for it. But because I've been psychologically programmed that that level of expertise is worth, right, me going through these particular hoops or financial challenges to get access to what I think I can receive from that. So we need to start having this conversation in black circles of how come we don't really respect black expertise and are willing to pay top dollar for it. So let me give an example. There's a brother I know that I'm in a payment plan to pay him for options training. So I teach options, but I've also taken options training from several other black people. So there was one brother I bought options training for. He allowed me to pay him in payments, right? Because his course was way, way, way more expensive than mine. So I came at him. I was like, look here, I want to take your course, but I don't have all the money up front. Can I break it down? Can we break the payments down? He said, yeah, you can break it down. So I paid him half up front and I paid him half a little bit later. There's another brother who I'm going to take options from. His course is way, way, way more expensive than mine. I'm also going to pay him in payments. But what you got to understand is that what they've taught me, the value of what they taught me exceeds the price. But for them to deal with that audience, what they've done is they scaled down their price point. But we'll go to a college and let these people charge us $60, $70, $80, $90,000 and go in debt at a particular percentage rate that you can't discharge through bankruptcy. And then we come out of school and we're lucky to make half of what we loaned to get that particular education. And then we're not satisfied with the education. So which is why after the fact, we're searching for something different, because the only reason why somebody's in the marketplace searching for something is because they're dissatisfied with what they currently have. So we want to start having this conversation about how come when it comes to black expertise, and I'm not talking about somebody that just says they're expert. What I'm talking about is somebody that has a track record of results or production in that particular area. How come we have this resistance to paying them top dollar? How come we're not willing to pay black people more money than we're willing to pay white people? How come a black person feels like the only way I can do business with black folks is to take less than what I would normally charge? Because if I try to go in the gate with more, black people are going to be scared off from doing business with me because of what's going on inside their head, the psychological script that they've been programmed to run inside their head. And until we can start really examining why we think the way we think, we're going to keep talking about relationship issues and why this person met with Donald Trump and yada, yada, yada. And at the end of the day, none of that stuff is really going to move the needle forward, right? So we want to start examining, how have you been programmed to think the way you think about things, and whether or not that programming is really benefiting you and your group, right? And if that programming is not benefiting you and your group, then why are you stuck in the same programming? How come you haven't decided to change the programming? And that's the kind of things that we talk about in the Dark Persuasion course, is really getting to examine the stuff that you've been taught about how the world works and how you should perceive how the world works and whether or not that's working for you, right? Because I don't come from the mindset that I should pay black experts less money than what I should pay white experts, because most black people have been under the tutelage and the expertise and the instruction of white experts. And it has led to no improvement in their life, but they keep paying white experts more and more and more and more money over time. So if you know somebody that can get value out of this, share it out. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. This is David W. Williams, and I'll talk to you later.